can be no other pathway. That the only way, in any way, to make the case that, against what Donald Trump's agenda is in many ways to guarantee that he gets nothing that he seeks, to prove that we will not stand for his ilk, is the essential argument. The problem I have, concerns I have, are immense due to the inseriousness with which Donald Trump is essentially taking office. Depth of understanding with which he is disappointing. It is very low rung. It reeks who has a business from managing it. This is the element to which, in many ways, is turning the U.S. company that he created, which measure, according to quite a few economists, he would be somewhere in the order of 3 to 5 times as he is now. Lackadaisical, his that kept it a much nest egg over just sized investment, but his, to the point where he has to lie to it being. My concern is that he will do the exact, will take something that effectively, if left, it would move properly. It would Obama administrations, in many ways, that looking back, the way the Bush administration could have benefited from the surplus left by the Clinton administration, to squander that legacy, to essentially currently we have a situation where the unemployment is 5%, the wages have started to grow over the living of a patient who's undergone open heart surgery, wherein you have a person who had a that put them in the emergency room where they had to have their heart massage back to life and all this. And there is a period of time to which they go through a often found in, it is almost mirrored exactly itself. And in this particular sense, you had a the Republican Party's obstruction effectively created this wall of healing, a barricade against the healing of the economy. And in spite of itself, the doctor that was presiding over this, in case of the Obama administration, was so good and so driven to actually salvage this circumstance, in spite of both the patient's actions that got it to in its position in the first place, and its enabling frat brothers who increasingly want to give it cigarettes on the recovery in the recovery room. The economy started to heal. And out of it came some genuine benefits, not the least of which being that in saving the auto industry, which the Republicans were against and the current president-elect was against, the loan guarantees, basically created the situation where companies like Tesla, a wholly American company, essentially helping to launch, to use a very Tesla-like term, a new American era of car manufacturing through Tesla, and then later on the following of the Volt and other electric cars, because of its success, and to the point where that overall growth over time is going to be nothing short of extraordinary. That wouldn't have existed if it hadn't been for the crash and the insistence of the Obama administration and the Democrats to save the auto industry. And quite a few Republicans who were afraid to be on the wrong side of saving the auto industry. Had it not been for them, it would have we would not be in the situation we were in. We would not have, we understand the merits of what the Republicans are saying about the Obama administration and what they blame it for, and what the reality, the metrics, the actual mechanical numbers are compared to what they were when he came into office, what they could have been had they worked in tandem with him, and then what they are now. The big question is there any place where Democrats should or would collaborate with the Trump administration in an attempt to better the country, get more democratic principles involved in certain bills? Is there give and take to be done? Or is it simply time for a blockade like unto what the Republicans have done? Or is it strategic? Do you do it in some places? Totals, no bending, let's say, on a Scalia-like Supreme Court justice. But if somebody can whisper in his ear and get comprehensive immigration reform on the table in its current form, which does have increased border security, they add some sort, the wall will never be in there. That will have to be a secondary supplemental that they can fight over for the next 6 years, even after he's left office, is my point. This is the question. 773-763-9278. Now, I'm not sure about the audio insofar as it going to Chicago. I think we're okay to take calls. We'll find this out. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Yeah, for some reason, I'm getting whatever's in my ear coming back to there. I don't know what the heck is going on, but we'll figure it out. I'm working on it. That's the only thing. Those are the only thing that should be going there. Okay. It's a little better. We'll see. And chat room, I'm sorry about the low quality of the video today. I'm hoping that this is true, Donna. More than you can know. Yay! The t-shirts finally got out. I hope Natalie got her shirts, and I hope Jude got yours. They went out at the same time, I promise. Yeah, I think that's just, quite frankly, it just, no matter what I do, it says the stream health is some sad form of yellow. So, love you, bye. Love you, bye. That was my mom leaving, going to a game. I'm in Kentucky right now, home of Mitch McConnell. And, yeah. All right, what do we do for this? They're for sale on the website, on housesparks.com.
Your clothes are in the dryer.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a yellow stream. It's gross. It's kind of an orangey color. I probably should see a doctor about that. It's just sad. Will Kentucky take it? Well, he's here. This is I'm in Frankfurt right now, and this is. I mean, his office is here in the state capitol. It's fairly well, we'll talk about it.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Welcome back. I'm in Kentucky right now. I'm doing shows in Lexington, Kentucky. It's always good to be able to, especially around the holidays or in between them, book shows near the family. It's a great time, and it's a lovely experience, however temporary, which makes it, I think, even more pleasant. Kids from, people that I went to school with, to middle school with here, come to my shows. And Sunday, tomorrow, I am going to the Ark Encounter / Creation Museum, that lovely Your Tax Dollars Not at Work religious site where they've got a full-size Ark and the Creation Museum. I'm very excited to go to that tomorrow. I'll be no doubt periscoping from there. So if you want to join, follow me at Hal Sparks on Twitter and enjoy the periscope tomorrow. The curious thing is, I got no conversation yesterday about how Kentucky. There was a couple of conservatives in my crowd, as there will be, and that's fine. And I don't, tend to alienate people in my show. It's not overtly political. I try to be socially political when I'm doing stand-up because I want everybody to, get the lesson and not have the buzzwords kill your experience. Because that's what happens. Most people get locked up on the jargon, even when they would agree with your point, which is effectively what I'm talking about when I'm saying we're kind of in a frozen space in terms of our electoral politics. Now, I was making the case last night that one of them was arguing the smaller government argument, and my feeling is
I forgot about your car and I hit it.
Uh-oh. That's okay. Don't worry about it. My mom hit my car. It's okay. I'm on the radio. I'll deal with it. Are you okay? Nope. Okay. Hold on a minute and I'll take a break. Relax right there. Oh, no. My mom, don't worry. I have the lost damage waiver. It's fine. My mom ran into my rental car while she was leaving for her game. Oh, and that's so sweet. Oh, poor thing. Anyways, that's why I get the LDW. Beautiful. So in terms of that, she's fine. In terms of that, I was talking a lot about the Kentucky, people here thinking this is a conservative state when a lot of people, secretly grow pot on their fields and all that. And then a certain number of people, talking the small government argument, when in reality, a state like Kentucky has an enormous government compared to, let's say, California in terms of the number of people per capita representation, because Kentucky has half the population of Los Angeles alone. There's 4 million people plus, or give or take, in Kentucky, in the entire state. And in terms of that, the representation, the number of governors, senators, congresspeople, all that kind of stuff is extraordinary compared to California, where your vote for as far as your senator is like 1/35th the vote of someone in Kentucky, because they represent somewhere in the order of 10 times the same amount of people. So our complaints about the Electoral College every 4 years, and especially in a circumstance where Hillary Clinton is set to win the popular vote, the national vote, by 2.5 million probably by the end of the count, and yet losing the Electoral College, it is the existence of a big government structure that makes my that makes the government of red states, of small, low population states, much bigger than the population of, and Carrie in our chat room is bringing it up exactly. 15 states in this country have less of a population than Chicago itself, and Chicago has less representation than Montana. Montana has 2 whole senators, and the entire population's probably the size of Schaumburg. So when it comes to voting for something or tipping the vote in the Senate, which is crucial in a lot of major issues, in the direction that they want, it's it's extraordinary how much power Montana has versus Illinois, considering the population, considering the economic impact and the a number of workers, blue collar, white collar, the level of education spending that Chicago itself has to go through is extraordinary compared to what Montana spends on its government versus what's necessary. And you hear about cities running out of money and and the tax dollars. It's because a lot of cities, the city of Chicago basically pays for Montana and Nebraska and all these states that have fewer people in them. If it's okay, Lady B, I'm gonna because of a slight emergency, I'm gonna take an early break right now. If that's okay, can we do that, Lady B?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
fine.
We'll do that. We're going to take an early break, and when we come back, we're going to start taking calls if our phones will permit. I'll be right back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Oh, is it really hurt? Did you do it fast? Mine is. It was a rental, and I got the lost damage waiver. Well, I didn't do it. I don't know. Where did you think I parked? What happened? Let me see. Sorry, guys. I had to check on my mom's.
I gave you an extra minute, so don't worry. You got 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my. Sorry. I had to check on my mom. She was backing out of the driveway and scraped my rental. And she's having a little minor panic.
Okay?
Yeah, she's fine. She just, it's her car's got a scrape on the rear quarter panel, and she knuckled the door on my rental car. It's parked. She just scraped it getting out of the garage. It's not a big deal. And she and I have the lost damage waiver, so I was telling her, like, don't worry about it. I could bring in a steering wheel and go, your problem. So she's fine. She's a little emotionally upset, poor thing. Yeah, if it was my car, it would have destroyed hers. My actual FJ Cruiser. Holy smokes. Poor thing. Whoops. I feel bad for my mom. Poor thing. I think this is the second time her car's had some sort of like she does something like this. She rides these hot rods. I don't like. All right, never mind. She's fine. It's okay. All right. Bedhead today. Whatever. It's okay. Get this guy turned in here. There you go. And look up.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Hey, Lady B, I'm hearing a little bit of loop back of what I was saying before the break, but that's kind of good. It's like we're revisiting that thought. And we'll talk a little bit, by the way, in the next hour about James Mattis, who allegedly Donald Trump is going to suggest for Secretary of Defense. He'll need basically a special dispensation from Congress to do this, because you have to be out of the military for 7 years to be the civilian head of the military. And he's only been out for 3. So, we'll see if James Mad Dog Mattis, who's not as mad as you might think, who's the guy behind the COINTEL program, and is anti-torture, which is kind of refreshing as a concept. We'll see if that's something he ends up, butting up against the desires of the Trump administration. It seems like they're going to want it whether they need it or not, just to show how tough they are. That's yet to be seen, but he will need special permission from Congress to allow Mattis to serve. But we'll see how that works out, and we'll talk a little bit more about that after the break. Lady B, do we have any callers on the line? Can we? Hello, Lady B, can you hear me? Maybe not. Okay, well, then we'll wait until we get a signal back on that, and we'll see. Ultimately, and I'll go to the our chat room right now and see a little bit of what they're putting in. He is. I guess Mattis, one of the concerns about him is that he is very hawkish on Iran. He is not against the Iran deal, though, which I think is important to note. He's not for tearing it up right away. He is just simply a lot more hostile to them in concept. We shall, we'll see how that plays out. This is the will of the voters in some way, and not so much. And when I say that, interestingly enough, when you're talking about the national vote going to Hillary Clinton and the Electoral College going to Donald Trump and giving him effectively the presidency, and this idea that the voters have spoken and they want Hillary Clinton, but the Electoral College is. I have to say, and this might be a bit of a time of a need for a bit of comeuppance in terms of the electorate, especially when it comes to progressives. This is what the inability to look reasonably at the circumstance in front of you and work long-term over your goal looks like. That the knee-jerk reaction not to vote for Hillary Clinton because of the mythology that the media fed about her, while completely ignoring the genuine concerns you might have had as a progressive or a liberal about Donald Trump, and that softening the vote a good deal in certain areas, mixed with the allowing of electing people to office or ignoring midterm elections so that redistricting, the secretaries of state of any particular state that people live in being able to manipulate the voting process and limit people's right to vote, the lack of fighting for voting rights over time, sort of the softening of belief in voting in this country, all that adds up over time. All of it. And there is an incredibly important lesson to be learned from this, from a Democratic and progressive point of view, is that when you live in a I'm going to take my ball and go home kind of childish way of looking at governing and not operating with the maturity of what is presented to you, not what you wish was, but what is real in front of you, you give away your power. Like it or not, you can argue it's how right or wrong it is. You can argue that it shouldn't be like that. But the reality is that by operating on the premise that things should be a certain way and that you deserve a better choice or you deserve a better thing, and when it comes to the actual mechanics of choosing, acting on those whims as opposed to acting on the reality that's in front of you genuinely creates a dangerous circumstance. And so progressives bear as much responsibility for any damage or bloodshed on behalf of the Trump administration as do, if not more so, than Trump voters themselves. And part of the reason I say that is because I'm a big believer that you only take the responsibility on yourself, that your life, your circumstance, your everything is largely your responsibility, at least your reaction to it. Nobody's responsible for a tornado, but they are responsible for their prep leading up to what they knew was a tornado season and their reaction afterwards and their ability to keep their cool in the circumstance and save themselves and their family. That's life. And there's a tendency of a bizarre wishful thinking on the progressive and liberal side, which is unfortunate and led to situations where in Michigan you had somewhere in the order of 80,000 voters who would have voted for the Democrat, believing the story told to them by the media about her, that the server was illegal when it was simply against policy, and then the policy later changed to a law after she left. Those kind of elements, all that muddied up detail is the same. It is sort of the liberal or progressive version of when Republicans look at a bill and complain about it based largely on its size. When they look at the Affordable Care Act and they go, there's over 3,000 pages in this thing, never realizing that the country itself has 330 million people in it. And that when you're dealing with healthcare for that many people, you need it to be complex because you have to take, in a democracy, the needs of the majority of people into into the standardized language of the bill, and then make allocations and allowances for people who are outside the norm or are found to be in extreme circumstances. And so, it's got to be complicated. These people think nothing of a 45-page iTunes contract, but somehow the Affordable Care Act should be, or the IRS code should be on the size of a postcard or something nonsensical like that. And it's just not possible when you have a country that focuses as much as it does on freedom, the ability of every citizen to create for themselves a business, a family, an individual circumstance that is as varied as each of those people. And so a level of complication is necessary, as is a level of size that a big country with a lot of optional behavior in it, because it is an extraordinary country, needs a bit of a big government for a couple of reasons. One of these essentially is the essence that there are countries that are also very large, not unlike unto Russia, that mean us ill, that would rather have us, while they are not interested in overt war with us, definitely want us taken down 5 notches on the world stage, and are absolutely, there's markers, there's intel, there is effectively criminal evidence of that tampering in our election. And the guy that they were on the side of is now the president-elect. This is an important factor. And when you are the number of especially liberal and progressive people that I see in the media, some of whom I know personally, who in their initial attempt to be either Bernie supporters or, quite frankly, just in almost a libertarian leaning direction, came down far harder on Hillary Clinton based on allegation and innuendo than they came down on Donald Trump based on fact. And those people over that time were rewarded with shows on Russian television. And were supported by ghost Twitter followers during this process. And by troll armies on Facebook and Twitter that pretend to be Americans disgruntled with the system, pretend to be pro-Hillary but disappointed with her, pretend to be pro-Bernie and anti-Hillary, pretend to be pro-Trump or what have you. And this is something as Democrats, as liberals, as progressives who want the agenda of progressive policy, they want the agenda of that liberals promise, true equality, equal protection under the law, a movement away from interventionist wars and violent imperialism over resources. The protection and equal treatment of Native American lands and the protection of the environment from basically wanton criminal pollution dumping by corporations. There is no point where throwing up your hands and going they're all alike works from a progressive or democratic standpoint. It just does not. It can't be an option. And it's curious because in the chat room, Anne is saying, the first one was treated like a word I can't say on the air, far worse than any male before her. To me, that's very telling. I agree. I think there's also a lot of evidence that a lot of women wouldn't vote for her for the same reason, whether it was structurally or socially. The normalization of not being able to vote for a lot of Republican women. It's the same. What I would call the Sarah Palin factor, which is many people believe that. I think her numbers were 70% likability, 20% electability. There's a large group of people that don't believe that women should be in office, should be in the military, should be in business, and those people aren't all male, and that's quite important. And Latonia is why is it more of the progressives' fault? It's fault is the wrong word. The word I would use is responsibility. I'm not interested in fault. I think we spend too much time in blame in this country in general. I don't participate it in myself. So fault is, I line up with the word blame. I would say responsibility. It is always and will always be progressives and liberals' responsibility for getting progressives and liberal ideas and policies on paper implemented. The idea that somehow it's okay to just go down fighting on principle when you're talking about the long-term growth of a country is in relative terms an absurdity. and it is, I find, emotionally and psychologically lazy. And it's when you have, and many people talked about how the polls were unreadable, and there were shenanigans, and the recounts may prove that there was some element of it. But any case where you have 48% of the public not voting most of the time, anything that motivates a significant number of those people will drive the election into uncharted territory. And effectively, that's what you have in certain areas of the country in terms of Donald Trump and the Republicans. That you effectively have what I would call the Alex Jones effect. People who have, disenfranchised voters who came to Donald Trump because they believe in wrecking the system. And they weren't all Republicans. That I would call them sort of the Susan Sarandon wing of the progressive caucus, that believed that there was certain value in the destruction of the system as we know it, for some hope that that it will act as some sort of homeopathic leeching to solve the problem of it. That if we make it bleed, its healing will somehow will turn things around. Which is incredibly, and something as complex as the U.S. government and our standing in the world is an incredibly childish way of handling it. And it's what Naomi Klein called the shock doctrine. It's actually how Republicans ruin economies around the world on purpose. So the idea that progressives would do this with their own government to make a point or to show their dissatisfaction is no better. And that's a concern. That's something that when you deal with the things you actually can affect, the options you actually have, the responsibility the things that are actually in your control. There's a level where you have such a lack of seriousness about the goals that you're saying so as to not believe you. It is in effect someone who is saying all the time that they want to get healthy, but if the gym is closed, they're just going to go eat a birthday cake. It's this is effectively the current direction of not all progressives, certainly not all liberals. Again, Hillary Clinton won the national vote by 2.5 million, but enough of a factor in certain places to soften the vote. And to some degree, you really have to start questioning whether that's good enough from a progressive standpoint. Is whether you're okay with letting that happen. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this with part of my plan for what I'm going to do during the Trump presidency, and perhaps you guys would like to join me on this one, and then some of your calls. 773-763-9278. Yeah, I don't. I don't know why the audio out of there is.
Sorry about that. I had to step away.
No, that's okay. I'm trying to figure out why.
You didn't get feedback when we went on break, right?
No, but I can hear the feedback coming to you for some reason from here, so I'm trying to fix that. I don't know what the issue is, so we'll work it out. Maybe it's just that. Maybe. Yeah, could be that. Check. Might have fixed it. We'll see. Could be.
You fixed it?
I think so. Looks like it. Yeah. Can you boost your audio to me a little bit? Because I literally have
How about now?
the report IT is turned all the way up here. Try again.
I have it up too.
Yeah, there's the loop again. Damn it. I don't know why it's... It's the only thing going out there. Nothing on you.
You have
Perhaps.
a little bit over 30 seconds, and you do have callers. But I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear it if we're having problems.
Yeah, my problem is if we try to get calls through here, it's going to create a loop. I don't know what it is. Because it's not on my side. I'm looking at all my monitoring, and I can't figure out what the... Let's see. Maybe this.
Yeah, that's what I was doing back there to see if anything was not connected properly
Right.
through the timeline.
No. Yeah. Curious that. Don't understand. Yeah, it's just an anomaly. I don't know how to fix it from this point of view, because everything I have is lined up the way it's supposed to be.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Welcome back. So, here's a couple of, and I'm going to, right now we're having audio loop problems, so I apologize if we can't take calls. But I'm going to talk to our chat room a little bit because they're always here, and it's impossible to have anything but, I guess, a philosophical loop happening there. I am proposing that, and I would love to see what our chat says about this, is that I don't believe that Democrats should obstruct Trump as a mechanic. As a matter of fact, they should make the attempt to appear to be working with him almost at every turn, while obviously running interference on stuff that is, obviously dangerous and totally counter to democratic principles. But when it comes to compromised bills on things like the immigration reform bill, I think it's important, quite frankly, that Democrats, because if that bill came to a vote today, as it would have over any point of the last 8 years, or any year before that it had been presented, there would be enough Democrats and Republicans to vote for it to get it through. Period. End of story. It absolutely has bipartisan consensus. It has a lot of necessary fixes in it. It can, once it's in there, they can argue about adding or taking away certain points, and that will in many ways eat up a lot of bandwidth as far as what is going through there. But I think if in many ways the damage done to Donald Trump by looking like he is working with Democrats in any ways is much, is it stronger? Maybe this is the question. I believe it's stronger with his base than it is with the Democrats. If Democrats go, yeah, we got the comprehensive immigration reform because he got Republicans to get in line and vote with us, that's effectively a win, which is exactly the opposite of the way that Republicans will receive it. This is, see, Astro Music Man is saying, obstruct him, don't give him validation. Here's the thing. In petulantly obstructing him, do you damage the country? Because that's effectively what the Republicans have been attempting to do. And there's a lot of areas, and Charles in our chat is saying, don't normalize him. Let's see, but how with the likes of Paul Ryan and Pence, they will have to scrutinize all bills proposed with fine-tooth comb to make sure they're not sneaking other items in an agenda. I absolutely agree that there is it is integral to both in committee and in voting and on the floor of the House and the Senate that these bills get their due time. But there might be a curiously enough, all the obstruction against a lot of the bills that President Obama was trying to put forward may actually happen under Trump because they do not conflict with his ego agenda, being liked and getting wins on the books. But they do conflict with the hardliners in his own party. So while the Paul Ryans of the world may actually get things like an infrastructure bank or immigration reform finally voted on, vetted and vote, because the bill still has to go through. The Democrats have a veto-proof majority or minority in the Senate, so they can undo, they can, or filibuster-proof rather. They can filibuster and stop stuff if that's necessary, because there aren't enough Republicans to change that. So there is that level of protection. There is also all the protections that the Republicans used pretty regularly, which is anonymous holds and all those. Even though I find those to be anti-democratic, they're still there and are functional in an emergency, as is a filibuster. So let's say the immigration bill in its current form gets voted on, gets brought up for a vote, and he's willing to sign it. Is it really Trump's win with his party? He might be able to pat himself on his back. I was the first person to get everybody on board. But really, what were you doing? You were simply forcing your own party to vote on the stuff they were obstructing because they didn't want to get a win on Obama's books. And do we want to be that same group? Do you want to undermine the entirety of his, the existence of his presidency simply out of spite for how the Republicans treated the Obama presidency? Or do you want to use him like a useful idiot the way Russia is? And I would say that the latter is a better plan. That it is time not to obstruct, resist, and fight in the kind of hammers and crayons methodology that the Republicans used when they planned to stop Obama from day one, but to make Trump our useful idiot. That, I think, has value. And if it, and again, this is if any of this stuff gets up for a vote. It is still very possible that Paul Ryan and all those guys don't want any of it to actually happen, have been playing it, wanting it, that it's artificial bipartisanship, that they were going, yeah, we totally would vote for this, but we can't put it on the, up because of the grounds of blah, blah, blah. We've got reasons why we would not include, we can't get it up for a vote because we're working on other stuff and yada, yada. All these excuses for not doing their job in governing may still be there. They may never actually do this. But on the off chance that they do, I think it's time to start chalking up those elements, getting things that are mechanically useful to the progressive and democratic and liberal causes on the books, running hardline obstruction against things that are damaging and violent. Specifically, I'm talking about things like anti-choice Supreme Court justices, while at the same time spending a year that if there's anything that has bipartisan support that he can, because he wants a win so badly, can get put on the books, like immigration reform, get it passed, sign it, and then leading into the midterms go, look, we turned Trump into our useful idiot. Totally start chipping away at his ego. Because that's the best way to get under his skin. Make him think he's winning, and then make him realize he lost. Or we could just stand there with our hands on our hips and do exactly what Mitch McConnell did, and appear to be idealist and obstructionist for that. And I understand. Astro Music Man is saying you have cogent points, but it's dangerous. I absolutely think it's dangerous. But is it less dangerous than simply giving him a situation where by running total resistance, total obstruction, that the mythology that he could have done so much more had they not, which is the reality of the Obama administration, by the way, but will become the mythology of Trump. Had the Republicans just gotten what they wanted, America would be in a lot better shape if he does start a trade war and basically ruin the economy, if it wasn't for Democrats and liberals, trying just obstructing everything, becoming the party of no, the country would be better off. It's tough. It's a tough decision, but that's the kind of decisions you make when you're talking about presidential politics. That is the serious. And it is true, Tom. I have been reading Dostoevsky, but that we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll discuss more of this. You can join us in the chat on the on the YouTube page. Follow me at Hal Sparks on Twitter and use the hashtag HSRPM to be part of the conversation. I'm going to tweet out the link to the show right now. It's youtube.com/C as in channel /Hal Sparks live /Hal Sparks channel /live. The link just went out. So we'll be back right after this. There we go. Get up there. Tweet. There we go. Thanks for the retweet, everybody. Especially, Jen will retweet that one in there. So
Steve is from the Gold Coast is willing to hold on.
Okay.
See, and hopefully it works with him.
Gotcha. I'm hearing the cycle like now going 3 times. Let's see.
Yeah, that's why I keep pausing.
Let's see. Maybe it's soundboard. Maybe if I stop this one, let's try this. How about this? Can you talk to me for a second?
Yes. Now you're echoing.
Okay, yeah, that's no good. Okay, never mind. Tried to fix it. Yeah, I don't know what the heck. Come in. Is that a phone ringing here? It is. I think it's my mom's phone ringing in the other room. Okay. It's got kind of a musical sound to it, though. It sounds like the beginning of like a electronic.
You have 2 minutes. That last one wasn't too bad.
Yeah, but you start talking, then I start hearing the loop again. It's super weird. I don't get it. Okay, so YouTube sound is off. Only audio that's going out to you is is the soundboard and the Shure SM57. So the audio coming back to me. Yeah, built-in output.
Right.
It's only going out one direction. It's only coming back this way. Could it be the app? Maybe there was an update on the app, and no, that wouldn't work. I'd have to hang up to figure it out anyway, so I don't trust it. Because there's a loop factor in the a monitoring factor in the app, but that's never been on. I don't know why it would be on all of a sudden. All right. Maybe if I.
You have a minute.
Okay. Let's try this. Check me again. Can you give me a little bit of an audio check?
30 seconds. That wasn't too bad.
I didn't hear any of that. Although, are you muting down yourself every time you talk now?
No.
There it is.
Oh,
Damn it.
done.
Damn it. How about now?
4 seconds.
Nope. No, definitely not. Okay, sorry. It was worth a shot.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Damn puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Welcome back to the show. Sorry about the inability to take calls today because it's kind of an important topic, and that but we're getting a lot of people contacting me via Twitter as well about this, and kind of putting their 2 cents in. And some people think it's Sue on Twitter is saying how your plan is dangerous. You build his power. President gets credit for bipartisanship. Builds his cred with indies. Working with him will help him win a second term. I'm totally wrong about this. This is one of the other elements. Celery Caraway is saying, I'm mad about the imbalance of power favoring right-wing states with low populations, 2 senators each. EV overrules 2.5 million. The electoral vote over 2.5 million. They get a guarantee of 3. That's how that works out. It's unfortunate. What I'm doing is I'm presenting an alternate way of thinking. I'm not necessarily insisting that this is the right way to go. What I'm doing is opening up the idea that there may be another way to think about this than simply parroting what the Republicans did all during the Obama administration. Because ultimately, from a popular vote standpoint, what the Republicans did was ineffectual, and it was only through redistricting that a lot of Republicans still hold on to their seats in those terms. But it's not that Congress got more popular while they continued to do this. And the idea is that mixing the politics of obstruction with genuine progress is largely counterintuitive. And my argument is and shall be that we have to be smarter than that. It always strikes me that obviously white supremacists have gotten their more than their fair share of radio and television time these days. I find it ironic that even CNN was saying, well, we have to, the KKK issued a statement, so we got to kind of put it up. It's news. It makes news. But there are actually, fewer KKK members than I have Twitter followers, but CNN doesn't automatically post all my tweets as soon as I put them up. So obviously there's an absurd standard there, and they're using shock and fear to sell toilet paper. That's part of the job of 24-hour news, and I get that. However, in terms of the concept of white supremacists, the argument often is that is from a victim standpoint, that white supremacists are always arguing that other groups and for some reason women, not just minorities but women in particular, are taking their opportunities away. They're getting outflanked by these equality movements and stuff. And the argument then in that circumstance is, well, if you're that superior, why should that matter? If you look at this like a foot race, I don't care what kind of shoes the other team is wearing. You should be able to outrun them. You're superior. That's essentially it. And but they never do. They basically are arguing from a position of weakness in all of these things. Not saying, not presenting greatness, but referencing greatness in themselves, which is a very Trump activity, which is why the appeal of him in a lot of ways, it's the idea of saying your race is better all the time as opposed to proving it through your own personal actions, not the whatever historic or cultural wins that your people may have come up with over time. What have you done for your group lately in terms of greatness? And I don't mean just stockpiling, snack foods for Armageddon, which seems to be the entirety of the contribution of KKK members to the white race on their behalf. Like, this seems to be the only thing that they have going for them is a better tornado shelter. They're not inventing anything. They're not at current pushing the fields of mathematics or helping us get to Mars or save the environment. They're just digging deeper and deeper, fallout shelters. I don't know how you argue supremacy if that's your main contribution. Even Alex Jones is is simply barnacling fear to sell survivalist and vitamin packets to the gullible and afraid. It's a methodology that's been around for a while. It's hardly superior. It works in other countries. It works with other races acting on other races. There's nothing special about it. And so arguing that you're special because of it seems kind of foolish. The same thing is the issue with Republicans. They're so much better at everything, and yet when they get into office, they don't actually make or do anything. They run to be a governor, a congressperson, a senator, and what they're effectively doing the entirety of the time that they're in there is at best co-sponsoring bills that someone else is doing, or at worst, never actually presenting anything on behalf of anybody that is a constituent of theirs, other than obvious pork barrel projects, which aren't even usually theirs. They're, oftentimes when a congressperson or a senator brings a pork barrel project from the state, it's something that the governorship of the state has come up with, and they don't have the money for it. This is something that the governors in the state house has gone, oh, these bridges are falling apart. This road needs to be built. These schools need repair. We need a grant from the federal government to pay for this because we're a red state. We don't generate enough income, even though we're superior in our Americanism to these big city states, better than, the un-American places like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Seattle, all the places that are making money, which supposedly they enjoy. So supposedly it's the job creators and the wealthy that they clamor around, all seem to live in those places with rare exception. And or at least house their businesses there where everybody else who works there lives. But that's not real America, and they still need the un-American elite money to fix the problems in their state, because their state senator, the Mitch McConnells of the world, don't come up with a way of creatively improving government in such a way to make it more efficient, solve the problems that genuinely exist, while also looking forward to standardized maintenance of the country, which besides security is one of the primary purposes of the government. At a certain point, what does a country do if it wants to destroy another country? What does it do? Besides kill its citizenry, what it does is destroy its infrastructure, wreck its electrical system, destroy its roads, blow up its bombs, or blow up its dams rather, bomb it, the dams or the power plants. Effectively, what is the difference between that act and letting them fall apart on their own through lack of care or maintenance, other than that one has fireworks involved? How at any point can you say you're pro-America if you let our infrastructure, our electrical grid, our our rivers and streams, the cleanliness of our food and water get damaged by time through ineptness or lack of care? At a certain point, there is no... You're doing the equal amount of damage. You're just doing it with a shrug and looking the other way. Which, and in many ways, how is that different from knowing that a spy is operating in an office and turning your head while he goes through the file cabinet? You know that damage is being done. You know that it is inevitable that damage being done will lower the quality of life for the citizenry, endanger them in the long term, and by looking away, that's an act of treason. So how is the Republican act of obstructing infrastructure improvement and working to make government and the infrastructure of this country stronger not the equivalent therein, except for the fact that it was, done through inaction versus overt action? And so when you look at Republicans like Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and the like, whose idea of governing is stopping governing from happening, with friends like these, who needs enemas? There's an element of the Russians realized in many ways that you don't have to bomb countries to destroy them. To lower their standing in the world. You simply have to chip away at their confidence in the structure and drive that towards, drive the people, the populace, and the governing bodies away from the act of improvement. Over time, it will fall apart. So this is, we got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to more of our chat, and I want to discuss a little bit about who Trump wants to put in charge of things and how we as progressives are responsible for that. We are responsible for everyone that Trump is putting into office. Whatever we did to get Hillary Clinton elected wasn't enough, and whatever we did to undermine that effort is directly responsible for any negative effect that comes from the Trump presidency. And so you can leave that up and go, well, I throw my hands up. I'm pulling away from the whole thing. It's not my fault. He's not my president. He's not. Or we can take the responsibility. And I have an idea for how we can start to take responsibility and actually have an effect without having to wait for our representatives to do it for us, because in many ways these are things they can't do. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. And I disagree about the Santa idea, although I don't mind there being black Santas. The idea that changing him to one is sort of odd. It's he's effectively from a tradition of a German saint, effectively. And he should remain so. And it's okay if he remains so. And he doesn't have to be black to represent universal love for black people. There's a problem with that, with identity politics and going, it only affects me if it reflects me. I think there's a dangerous precedent set by that. He can only love me unconditionally if he looks the same color as me, is a really scary road to go down. Yeah, the dolls are different, though. I agree, Julie. I think dolls reflect yourself and your plaything. But as far as a, it's the problem I have with white Jesus. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? White people wanted to see a Jesus that reflected their skin color, when in reality he would be Middle Eastern looking. I think that. And I don't know that I'm freaking out about Black Santa. I certainly don't have an issue. I just think you should just leave it kind of the way it was, or come up with something wholly new. There's no reason why history doesn't stop, right? Yes, it's actually from Turkey, but he's across the Caucasus Mountains. He would be effectively that. But then anyway, like the idea that Jesus is white is the same effect of a Black Santa. Is the idea that only in the case that he reflects my skin color back to me is he responsive to a level of love. And anybody, that's like saying that I love yoga and I love Hindu religion and I want to but I would like to see a white yogi. That's the only way I would know.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Welcome back. So, there a lot of people are chiming in on Twitter as well. But I think let me do this. We'll see if we can make this happen, Lady B. At the very least, you might not be able to send it completely to me, but if Steve in the Gold Coast is still on, should we give it a try? What do you think?
Hello, do you hear me?
I do, and there's no echo, so hopefully she'll be able to ride that and fix it. So go ahead. Yeah.
I'm in Chicago, and you're somewhere in Flyoverland.
That's right. I'm in Kentucky right now. Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully let's try this.
Yeah.
One, you made the important point about what we're to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, go ahead.
I couldn't take him.
Oh, was it looping back?
Double feet on this side.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Sorry, Steve. I appreciate you making the attempt. There was some sort of audio loop. I couldn't hear it. It sounded fine on my end, though. So I think it might be. Maybe I'm off the hook because of that. Maybe the loop back isn't to me. Hard to say. But here's the thing. This is the difficult part for progressives. This is, again, I've said this before. Again, I'll say it again. The weight is always on us if we want progress, because the Republicans have no impetus for progress in any way. There is no reasoning to their electoral politics. It is simply all brakes, no gas. This is it. That the country, it would be better off if it was some form of a cross between a hedge fund and an Amish village. The morals and ethics in terms of women's role in the world and where children should be of an Amish village, and all the men would work in a gleaming tower where they just printed money on this sort of like Ayn Randian utopia in a carved out mountain in Colorado. There is no interest in recognizing the increasingly important recognition of the experience of trans people, for example. There just isn't. You're looking in the wrong direction if you're looking for a solution from that crowd for those people. They believe in stasis, and if those people can't survive under the stasis, then they don't deserve to. And while progressives may outrun their feet every so often in an attempt to provide equal rights and protections to trans people or LGBT community, and may not recognize that there's a growth period that the rest of the country has to play catch up on because they're not ready for it emotionally, and that's why we have these actions of these cycles of action backlash, is because we're ahead of the growth cycle of some of the people in this country, and a sound volume of human beings, like a large number of these people. We as progressives still, if you want it, it's only coming from this group. Yeah, Ginger in our chat room saying that's why they hear Black Lives Matter as only Black Lives Matter instead of Black Lives Matter too. That's right. Because their brain system is not ready for that circumstance. It's not their experience. It's the propaganda they receive is in contrast to that. And so, do you want to stand and scream in a town square in some sort of righteous indignation, or do you actually want to further the rights of people and protect them? How ugly and backwards and forwards, and how how indecisive and confusing that may be at some point. This is, that's the important thing. Do you want what you want, or do you want to go down swinging or scream about what you want? Do you want to be the progressive equivalent of a Tea Partier standing outside going, "Keep your government hands off my Medicare"? Or do you want to actually move the ball down the field, even if you wish you could just do Hail Marys every time? You need, we have a responsibility to have a ground game, a long game, a principle, but a reflection of, the mechanics of those principles, the methodology. You test something, see if it works. If that doesn't work, you try another path to get the whole principle moved forward. But if your principle doesn't match some sort of purity test of action, taking your ball and going home is effectively all PETA, no humane society. It is all ACT UP, no AIDS walk. It is all, hypervigilance with zero patience. And Anna's in our chat room, who's in power though? The Tea Party and the Republicans. It obviously worked. Here's the thing. I would say that's the argument that they have. They were comfortable with this obstructive level because fighting Obama reflected their principles. Just simply stopping a black man from having a successful presidency worked for enough of them that it did satisfy their needs in the exact same way that I'm saying. And there's an element to which, in being open-minded, in being, more aware of the broad options of humanity, that we can talk ourselves into a corner sometimes and not actually accomplish what we want to accomplish. And I got news for you. That's okay. Society is marching forward in terms of progress all the time, regardless of the step backs that we get a lot of times. And so, we have I'm just saying, at a certain point, you can blame, you can fault, you can say that, it came up short here, it didn't work here, or you can go, okay, what parts can I fix? What parts am I responsible for? And so here's what I'm going to suggest, and we'll go to break, and you can think about this, and then I would like to see how Twitter and the chat room respond to this. But my plan is a Freedom of Information Act request for all internal emails not directly dealing with national security from the Trump administration every 3 months. The entire length of his presidency. Freedom of Information Act every 3 months. All documents not pertaining to security-related measures, and you can specify, on whatever, every 3 months, whatever topic is the strongest. If we're talking about immigration, if we're talking about what their plans are for building the wall from a budgetary system, not just from him and his office and the administration and elements of his administration, but congressional leaders in he doesn't have to release them, but it at a certain point, well, he can obstruct or try not to release them, but the act of doing that will also make him obviously show that he's not being transparent. I think taxes are a great way, but you can't force him actually to release them. As a president, his taxes will become public record from now on. Next year's taxes, we'll see those. But that's just one step, one plan, one element. If you have any others, I'd love to hear them. 773-763-9278. Actually, we can't take calls. I beg your pardon. It's out of a habit. It's Hal Sparks, the radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT 820. That's WCPT820.com as well. And you can follow me on Twitter at Hal Sparks and use the hashtag HSRPM if you want to join in the conversation. Or you can join us at the Hal Sparks channel on YouTube. We'll be back. Mm-hmm. Thanks, John. I appreciate that. Thank you. That means a lot because that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Charles, that's interesting. There's a point where it will all start going bad. How will the Republicans react? Well, again, this is where it pays to hedge a little bit as Democrats and at least tap dance about trying to. Thanks, Tom. I agree. I need a private jet. I was actually looking for one online yesterday. Like it's in my goals. If the Republicans, if the Democrats have done zero help, obstruct, double middle finger the whole ride, then the minute things start to go south, there's this mythology they can push to a big portion of the country, including independents, that the Democrats they just hate Republican, they just want to obstruct, and all the stuff we said about Republicans, which we were right about, will simply be both sides do it, and that's that. However, if there's a moment where the Democrats are like, look, we've been trying to work with this guy, and then he starts a trade war with half of Asia, we can't dig him out of that. What the hell is this? Then it's all in the Republicans' lap because it comes from their element, Thanks, Integral. I appreciate that.
30 seconds.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. Yeah.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Now, let's be abundantly clear in this conversation that I'm having what I would say is a reasonable conversation as someone who wants progressive and liberal policies to be enacted, to actually help people in a permanent form. It is exactly the fight that Obama had with progressives about, say, don't ask, don't tell, where he didn't want to do it as simply a presidential signing statement, and put them in the position that a lot of dreamers are in right now, because the pressure on that became immense and the lack of movement in Congress in terms of the rights of dreamers went it is effectively could be wiped out by Trump on day one. And in Obama saying this should be an act of Congress, that the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell has to be done through Congress. And actually it was. There was a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth accusing Obama of not really trying, of leaving this up to a group of Republicans that weren't going to obstruct it the whole time. And effectively being anti-LGBT because he was doing it this way instead of just enacting the signing statement. Realizing, though, at the time that if he wrote a signing statement saying people, can come out of the closet, and then somebody rescinded it, all those people who came out of the closet would now be in danger of being kicked out of the military because they couldn't hide it anymore. You couldn't put the toothpaste back in the bottle, which is exactly where the dreamers find themselves. And so there, this idea that real progressive change needs to be done through the legislative process, as painfully and ugly as it tends to be sometimes, to make it last, to make it, a manageable win that actually accomplishes something. That's what it requires. And in terms of, the policies going forward, there are going to be a few things that Trump puts forward or is okay with. He even said them much to the chagrin of other Republicans during the debates. If he were to do any of those, and they are in line with Democratic principles, and they are something we would all want, to not let them get through at all, simply because we can't let him have a win or something, is foolish, detrimental to the country, is violent to our own principles, and silly. And you also increase that idea that Congress, the Senate, of which we need to put more Democrats. By the way, this idea that the House or the Senate are ineffective bodies or have a bad, record as far as people, as far as popularity goes, has way more detrimental effects as far as a Democratic voting bloc than the Republican voting bloc. And that 12% or that 18% that still like Congress in some form or another, a good portion of those are Republicans who just say it because you don't say bad things about any element of the government. Because if you do, the terrorists or the commies or the Chinese win. That's it. I mean, that's effectively where that number comes from. It doesn't come from progressives going, I love the Senate and the House. Like, don't be silly. So I think we have a responsibility to, if there is any of these bills that has been languishing about that have already got bipartisan support, and because he just needs some sort of narcissistic win to make himself feel better, strong arms the Republicans into putting it up for a vote, it actually gets voted on and implemented. Next time around, by the way, all the House members are going to be, are up for re-election. All of them. And a lot of people are going to hate it if they put the immigration bill up for the Republican side. There's not a single Democrat that's going to really genuinely mind if comprehensive immigration reform goes through, even if it had build a wall attached to it in some sort of budgetary sense, because it won't happen. It'll get reallocated and undercut, and they'll be behind on it. It'll be this big, stupid, non-existent dam that's half built that'll have instead of Trump on it, it'll just have UMP. Like left there undone, and a monument to the false, governmental policy of the Trump administration. It'll forever be the half-built wall of Donald Trump. Fine. If it brings with it all the other elements that allow people to who have been effectively undocumented citizens of this country to incorporate themselves into this country in a more legal sense, allow them to start collecting on Social Security that they've been putting into because they've been living under the radar for years. If those things happen, and at the same time there's a level of border security that's basically equal to what we have now, which is effectively a net zero of people crossing the border. But the people who are here aren't living under the radar anymore and therefore can't be paid under the table by corporations, have to verify, have to become citizens or have a work visa to work. They can't undercut American workers for construction jobs and other jobs like that. And migrant worker jobs can be more monitored and regulated in terms of what corporations do. That's in the comprehensive immigration reform. That's why it has bipartisan support. That's why it could pass. It could have passed 10 years ago. It could pass right now. If he managed to do that because he just wants to pat himself on the back for the win, then I think the Democrats have a responsibility to go, super, let's vote for it. Hey, good for you, Donald Trump. And let all the Republicans start stewing about why the Democrats are so happy about something he just did. This is important. And you may not agree with this. You may think that any win on this guy just gives him an automatic win. Well, the reality is, if he passes immigration reform, because that is a win he can get on the books, all those white nationalists we worry about in his cabinet are the first people to mutiny. So, do you understand what I'm saying here? This is, we cannot, in something as complex as governing, operate on an us versus them methodology and still claim some level of belief in equality, open-mindedness, liberalness, the idea of free speech, free expression. Because we do believe in those things. As progressives, it's way scarier because the people that, oftentimes we're giving the, when Republicans give those rights, they give them away to women, minorities, and the LGBT community. That's effectively when they whinge about free speech rights and all those. That's who they're talking about. Who gets to talk? Who gets to say what they want to say? Make movies and TV shows that they want to see. All those elements. When liberals talk about it, we mean armed right-wing white nationalists who want to march in Skokie in KKK hoods. That's way scarier as a group. Because the KKK is actively trying to recruit gay people, no matter what Pat Robertson thinks, aren't. There's no recruitment drive. But people will see what they do. What they themselves do. So, of course, they look at it that way. So there's a, there's a value on the Democratic and progressive side to hold strong to principle at a level that must be shocking to the other side. And an awareness, by the way, that if you believe in these things, if you are a member of a white nationalist group or you are a member of the KKK, you have every right to speak. But I have every obligation and responsibility to criticize every word you say. That dual acts of free speech do not, undermine the rights of either group. As a matter of fact, they are effectively the entire point of free speech is open debate. And loud debate at that, but not at the expense of denial. And so if we look at our legislative actions as Democrats, progressives, liberals, flat denial is not the win. How can we turn Donald Trump into the useful idiot Russia knows he is? That must be the plan. Because this guy used to be a Democrat. He used to be pro-choice. He goes wherever the ego winds push him. And if you have someone that malleable in office, you giving up the reins means giving it up to whomever will take them. And right now he's surrounded by white nationalists and nutcases like this. This guy, his skirt is a sail, and all you got to do is blow wind up it, and he'll kind of go wherever you want. And yeah, and I think you look at the Democratic platform for what it contains, and you go, what can we move down the field during this presidency? And Bison Lawyer says, Hal, whatever makes you think Trump will ever allow immigration reform? I think because elements of border security have already been added to it, I think it is the closest thing to him dealing with the problem. They won't be able to get another version of the bill, but there's a chance, and they've been talking about this, of getting this bill on the floor. Because it's the only way he'll be able to, because if he does it, it will shift economically the impact of undocumented workers taking American jobs to a factor that he can pat himself on the back for. And Lori in our chat saying his ideology is greed, plain and simple. I agree to some degree, but was it Freud said attention is the root of all evil, not money. The reason he's greedy, the reason he wants money, is because he wants attention and he wants some sort of weird missing love in his head that he's not getting. And that and power and greed are in and of themselves no more edible than cash is. It's what people buy with that, and what Trump buys with his money is attention. And so whoever gives him attention in a way that, will affect him, I don't want to be too Rasputin about this, but it's a reality. And so, again, the question becomes, what do you want to accomplish anything, or do you want to simply obstruct and have basically Republicans parroting in many ways what we've been saying about the Republican House and Senate during the Obama presidency? So I think there's a couple things. One is Freedom of Information Act lawsuits on a regular schedule, and in many ways, the other is he should be in danger of impeachment every time there's a business crossover, where his business, if at any point there is a collusion between his business interests after he's sworn in and his duties as president, that's impeachable. He should be in danger of that all the time. And John Anderson, how everyone misquotes, it wasn't the money is the root of all evil, it's love of money that is the root of all evil. That's exactly right. And again, Freud said attention was the root of all evil, because what do you buy with that money? What do you want from that money? What does money get you besides resources? Well, love of money gets you the attention and status that comes with it. And status is another way of saying esteem. So this is, we got to take a break, but this is my perspective. This is an alternate viewpoint. I am simply today presenting to you another way of wrapping your head around information as it comes in. There are absolutely no question points where obstruction is the only remedy. But in the, conceptually, in any forum where his ego can be chipped away at, a progressive or democratic bill can actually make its way through the House and Senate, then I think there's no question we get it in there. And then when the election comes back around, we go, yeah, we use this sucker to get this through and this through and this through. Yeah. So, it's important. It's an important, even if it's as a thought exercise. We need to start approaching these issues from as many solution points as possible instead of just one. The idea that we should just bang our head against a wall out in spite will do nothing. This is, we'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. How do you mean, Paul, when you say environmental time is the key factor? How do you mean? I think you're right, Donna. I think 2 years will be in a, We may have President Pence for a short while, but we'll have President-elect Pence, the vice president, and he is nowhere near the, he's in the Ted Cruz camp as far as electability. We'll see who the Democrats want to run against him next time. It's super important, but we'll see. Jennifer Granholm. Carl, if he takes away the 60-vote cloture filibuster threshold, then he understands that stays that way. And if tradition holds in any format, the House and Senate often change during the midterm. If that happens because of how people feel about the Trump vote this time around, they'll be in a real pickle. That's right. Granholm is, she's Canadian, but she's awesome though. She could be VP. That's right.
One minute.
I'm not a fan of Martin O'Malley's. I don't think there's enough there. I like Gavin Newsom a lot. I think he's awesome. I loved Wesley Clark when he ran the first time with, when Hillary and Obama were running. I think he's a good dude. There's a lot of good people out there. Yeah, I know. Gavin's running for governor of California, and it may be the stepping stone to this next piece. I hope so. I love Gavin. He's a solid human being. I've met him several times. He's a good soul.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
So we are, nearing the end of the show, but I really wanted to sort of put a bug in your ear about how you start digesting news. And there are bright spots in some of this that I think we should allow. The concept of James James Mattis being Secretary of Defense, even though, like I said, he would need special, permission from Congress to do this. He's, as it goes, he's sort of an old guard, capable human being. Again, he's a military leader, so there's always that question of having a military leader, running from the civilian end of the military, but a smart man nonetheless, and against waterboarding, which I think is, an important aspect of this. I think literally this is a situation where Trump has simply likes the nickname Mad Dog so much, he is overlooking every other aspect of this. So the upside to Mattis is that he is actually against waterboarding. He has said, and I know I'll mangle the quote, but he's effectively said, give me a couple of packs of cigarettes and a pot of coffee, and I'll get more out of the guy than waterboarding ever will. Which is a recognition of how interrogation genuinely works, and he's genuinely admired across the board from a military standpoint. He is someone who I think could possibly very possibly intimidate Trump into doing the right thing in certain circumstances. So I mean, this is there's value here. So this is a possibility. This is one of the a bright spots in the potentials. And again, this is a situation where ego has actually played into a more positive circumstance than somebody else he could put in charge. Now, the Rudy Giuliani concept of head of the State Department, some foolishness like that, is just an absurdity on measure. The idea that they would go through. You're either going to see them get in, fool around, and then he'll have to drop them because he's more important ego-wise than they are. This is how a lot of his cabinet choices are actually going to play out. But like I said, one of the upsides from a military standpoint, and this is coming from somebody who has a lot of law enforcement in his family, is that Mattis is not necessarily a bad choice for that circumstance. I think because he's certainly a better choice than Petraeus was, for example. If you look at a lot of the people who, he's floating, in these circumstances, Mattis is off the charts better than they are. So again, this is a situation where energy will be spent, energy spent fighting Mattis will be energy lost fighting, who he wants to put in charge of education, for example. Or Ben Carson is the head of HUD. I mean, this is the madness of the Trump administration. Is this kind of branding Celebrity Apprentice version? Like, let's just get some names in here, drain the swamp so that the alligators don't even have to float to the surface to look. This is, I've said this, before, but like asking Donald Trump to drain the swamp is like asking a turd to flush the toilet. There's no impetus for him to do this. There is no reason for him to do this. But there is every reason for us as progressives to go, okay, what happens? What were the Republicans afraid of if Obama had a win? Why did they obstruct every time? What was their big fear? Their big fear was that if they gave a win in any ways, it wouldn't be that people who supported Obama would support him more, or even that independents would, is that their own supporters would eat them alive. They would not, allow them to get away with letting him have a single win. They had to run an obstructive game all the time because their own constituencies would attack them vehemently. They would lose their job if they let it even have the appearance that they were helping Obama with anything. Democrats really don't have that problem in terms of that. We won't, if the bill makes sense and we go, we got him to keep Obamacare and add an interstate, selling across state lines element, which was something that Obama was trying to add when we first put in the Affordable Care Act, but Blue Dogs and Republicans obstructed it. If Trump was able to add that to it and make it solvent in some ways that it isn't, or fix some elements of it, we would be fools not to let that happen. And at the very time the Democrats allowed that to happen, his own supporters would eat him alive for giving Democrats a win of any sort. That's what we have to be aware of, is that in both circumstances, not helping Obama and or allowing any bill that Democrats support to get through Trump, or send him a bill that he can sign because he'll ask for them. Any gives to Democrats to get those things through will get them attacked by their own groups. And Democrats would serve themselves well to, as soon as he's about to sign something, do a victory lap every single time for all the positive aspects. Everything that is good about a bill Trump is about to sign, Democrats should act like it was simply the only thing in the bill. it is a strategy that I guarantee you will work. It will drive his supporters insane because it's not about governing or democracy or any of it. It's about obstructing progress, obstructing the rights of women and minorities and the LGBT community. That's what they're hell-bent on. So anytime they feel like there's even a hint of the possibility of some movement forward, they're going to wig out. So anytime Trump is about to sign any kind of a bill, even if he starts signing, anything short of an anti-choice bill or some sort of madness, anything that's even remotely normal, Democrats should be high-fiving themselves on the Capitol steps. It will make his supporters freak out. They're already feeling betrayed by his, suggesting somebody from, JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs to run, our economic system. They're already wigging about that. So keep pushing them in that direction. Don't go, well, we'll stop that. Let them have their Goldman Sachs guy for a while. We fixed their mess before, we can fix it again. Wrap your head around that. Like I said, if it's obstruction that's necessary, obstruction is what we do. But if it's the only tool in the toolbox, you're a fool. And I'm no fool. Not today, anyways. I'm Hal Sparks. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks, everybody in the chat. Thank you, Lady B. Thanks, everybody, for putting up with our audio issues today and being part of the conversation on Twitter. Follow us there. Like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lady B. Okay. I signed off there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the last president left us with a collapsed economy, 2 wars that cost $5 trillion. Do I think Trump can do worse? Absolutely. Do I think he can damage the country more than George W. Bush? Yeah, I do. Do I think we as Democrats can recover from it and make a better country out of it regardless of that, even though it's a pain in the ass? Of course. That's right. And that's right, Julian. Lots of dead soldiers, no question. We have a responsibility to the citizenry of this country, even the ones we don't like, to make this place better all the time. And if that's the way you come across all the time, no matter who's in office, you will always have that leg up on the unpopular, members of Congress who just hold their, I will only vote for stuff that I absolutely 100% agree on because that's me. Or the purest thing is friggin' nonsense. Yeah, and I do believe Latonia's right. I do believe in a 50-state solution for Dems. I like the idea of Howard Dean's system. Howard Dean was coming, saying he would be happy to run the DNC again. I think Ellison's a great guy, so I hope he does a great job with it. But I think that is the key. Yeah, the hours go pretty fast when it's just me talking. That's right, Maureen. This guy doesn't realize, and I don't think it's right about the war part of it because a big portion. Remember, who's fighting those wars? It's all redneck white people, who their sons join and stuff because they want to fight an enemy, and then they want to. It's understand this. He didn't run on we're going to have more wars. He didn't, and if he tried. The minute he lowers our international credit rating and all that kind of stuff, that starts happening again because of his actions. Watch the Republican business people who are tacitly holding their nose and supporting him right now to freak out. That's right. I agree, Jennifer. Every 2 years, not every 4 years, period. The Democratic position, the platform of the Democratic Party should include a push for voting every 2 years. Right. we don't clean up after these mistakes and disasters because we force people to have some sort of purity test, and we buy this BS hook, line, and sinker. If the trade war led to a hot war, it is an opportunity for maybe a new understanding on the part of the populace how important governing actually is. WW131. We already know that 1,000 jobs is worth $1 million. It's $7 million. Basically they ransomed Carrier to get those jobs back in the country. And we're going to talk about that next week. I want the actual deal to come before we start. There you go. Anyways, you guys are awesome. Got to go. Have a great day. I'm doing a little meet and greet at the club with Lab Rats fans, and yeah. It's mandatory voting. Sorry. Yeah, that's right. $7 million in tax breaks. They ransomed it. That was a ransom. And Tom, I don't know if our focus should not be on American voters. Our focus should be on the Democratic Party first. Democrats should have as part of their mandate a pledge that you will vote every 2 years, and that you will do everything you can to make sure people vote every 2 years. And you will guarantee the voting rights of every citizen who is eligible. Period. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start getting that added to the Democratic platform myself. That's going to be my push. There you go. You guys are awesome. I will see you again next week. And, of course, I will be periscoping from the Creation Museum and the... the Ark encounter, the big Noah's Ark here in Kentucky in Williamstown tomorrow. So wish me luck. Woo! That's going to be a bit crazy. But until then, we will see you. Bye-bye. Mm-hmm.